Good evening and welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen meeting for June 4th, 2018. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast by local TV. The first agenda item is the approval of the signing of the warrant. Can I have a motion for signing of the warrant?
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
And I will vote in favor as well. Next is the approval of the May 21st, 2018 minutes. Can I-
Moved. Seconded.
And I would also vote in approval of that as well.
Chief's here, Mike.
Okay.
Just walk.
Next agenda item is invitation to speak. Is anybody here for invitation to speak? Not seeing anybody. The next agenda item is public hearings. We have no scheduled public hearings this evening. So our first scheduled appointment is the Portuguese picnic. Come right up, please.
Go ahead.
Hey, Chief.
Done this before.
Once or twice.
Maria's hiding.
I was just gonna say, she's a lot prettier than the three of you, but I...
It's fair.
It's tough to be a rose with three thorns.
Go ahead.
So these are the three licenses, the liquor license, 1 day for each of the 2 days. A permit to obstruct, which is to allow the parade. And then lastly, the entertainment license for the outdoor bands. So the standard license we've used for many years is there. Again, Saturday from noon time to 1 a.m. Music shuts off at 12:15 a.m. Sunday, 12 to 11 p.m. Music shuts off at 10:45. The same setup that we've had for a number of years now, as far as the beer wagons and checking people's IDs and the bracelets. And then lastly, the number of police officers. I did send a letter again to the colonel of the state police asking for their assistance as well, and I anticipate that will be approved. I've not heard back yet. I just sent it last week. Over the course of the year, I've met with Joe Gonzalez, the president of the club, maybe 4 or 5 times. We meet right after the picnic, what went right, what went left, and how can we do it better. And as you know, we take a look at it every single year to try to just determine the right approach. So, and then moving up to as late as a couple of weeks ago, I met with Joe just to go over, okay, here's the approach for this year.
This is a long tradition in Milford, and it's one that I've advocated for in terms of celebrating the event, celebrating the food, the dance, the costumes, the parade. It's one that, we just had a Brazilian event this weekend, and, celebrating ethnicity and background and culture is something we ought to encourage. But we obviously, wanted to do it safe, and we know that you take that seriously. And so the question really I have is, I've noticed the success of past years, and I'm just wondering, are there any changes? Because really, this is about any substantive material changes since last year, because last year was largely successful.
I mean, for us, the only change I can see, Bill, is I should have the folks that, you supported, the board, as well as town meeting, finance committee, special operations people. So I should have them up and running at that point. And, my plan is to deploy them as well.
Okay.
In the area. So aside from that, it's really an issue of day to day, where is the largest crowd and shifting police officers around. Joe and the other staff members, at the club are readily available to us.
Right.
So we have their phone numbers, they have ours, but yet they're on the property, so.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chief, the more larger issues that have come up in the last, I don't know, I want to say, 7, 8 years or so, because it's been a good run for a while, and I think have been off-site for the most part, right? And those that might want to attend, at 11:30 after having partaken in alcohol festivities earlier in the day. So, those you weed out, those you see, the behaviors, and you get calls from neighbors.
You're right, we watch for them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is they're coming through the park, or as they're, because we deploy more officers into the neighborhood as well.
Sure.
And then it's just an issue, a lot of it's young people and.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where, the services of the fire department, it's been helpful to us. And, because some of these kids,
They're kids.
they're in bad
Sometimes.
shape coming our way, and it's a matter of corralling them, and if they're able to go home, we send them home. We contact parents and have them come down and pick them up.
Yeah.
If not, if they have to go over to the ER, we send them over to the ER, so.
Yeah, I think your approach is, in terms of PCing people that don't represent any harm to others, but need some assistance getting home, makes sense. And for those that want to engage in, unruly behavior and want to make the team, then you'll oblige them. And I know that arrests are sometimes necessary, but those have been minimal, so.
Yeah,
Those have been very
swing now,
small.
so.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll.
It's been a good run. I wish you a lot of success. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chair.
No, gentlemen, I don't have any questions either. Obviously, even prior to I was on the board, I know all the work and time you guys put into this and the logistics of it, and I'm certainly glad I'm not one of the organizers, but I give you a lot of credit for doing so. So I'm perfectly comfortable with moving forward on the licenses.
Just real quick before we vote on, a couple of questions I have, Chief, is on the actual application, it says Saturday, 1 PM to 12 AM. This is on the application now. And then Sunday from 11 AM to 11 PM. But on your letter, and I think I know the reason for it, you say,
The liquor license,
right, then you say, basically from 2 to 2 AM. That's police presence.
that's our presence.
Right, okay.
Because
So,
you have a presence of police officers, so generally Saturday night, you're going an hour beyond the closing time.
right,
And because we move up into the neighborhood. So the 2 sergeants, myself, the 10 police officers, I usually get 4 or 5 state troopers and my other personnel, just so we don't have the disruption to the people in the neighborhood. It's a matter of moving people along that should move along. And then also you end up with house parties that follow, and, that creates a disturbance for the neighbors. So it's a matter of us going down, and I mean, they really have a choice, and most of them take the choice of just quieting it down, and they can have their get-together. But it's just,
and the reason I bring that up, I don't bring that up to put you on the spot, I bring that
No,
up
not
so
at all.
that the general public watching understands that the Portuguese Club, officers, the police department, the fire department take it very seriously, and though the picnic is gonna shut down at, say, midnight on Saturday night, there's still a very heavy police presence around the neighborhoods protecting. And to Selectman Buckley's point, thank God we haven't had problems, but, we don't shut the picnic down at midnight and everybody goes home at midnight. The police are still out there just making sure that everything is okay, and I want the general public to know that.
yeah, we don't just get in our cars and drive away at midnight because, that would just be
You'd
unforgivable.
be back a few minutes later.
Yeah, most certainly, and with limited resources, so, it's a matter, we do hold over officers from 4 to 12 into the midnight shift for the very same reason, and it's to really put a real presence in that neighborhood. I mean, they do deal with the picnic every year, people
Yeah.
that live in that general area. Bill and I have discussed for probably 10 years the issue of
Music,
the
yeah.
volume of music and how it travels. And, as these 2 guys will tell you, but especially Billy, I actually go out, and I'll go down onto Congress Street. I go up, where Bill lives. I move myself down Highland Street and just get out of the car, shut it off, and listen, because people do have, they have the right to not just be saturated. So, and that's what we try to do. And I simply come back and I talk to Joe, and, we turn the volume down a couple notches, and that's worked very well. The staff, Joe and the other people at the club, are very responsive, so it's a matter of just simply asking, and it gets done.
That's fantastic. So I wish you great picnic this year, so.
Thank you.
So we're gonna vote, we have 3 different motions to vote on. So the first one
We're going to
is,
combine them, Mr. Chairman. If it works for you, I think it can work for the minutes and the purposes of the meeting. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the one-day license for the annual picnic. It's actually 2 nights, so it's a one-day license where it's noted that it's the 2 evenings. It's the permit to obstruct application for purposes of the parade, and I'd like to also, within that motion, capture the application for live event and music on Saturday and Sunday night, the nights of the picnic.
I'll second that.
I would vote in favor of that as well.
Thank you all.
Congratulations,
Have a good night, guys.
have a great event. And thank you for everything you do.
See you again.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Take care. Good luck.
Gee, we'll talk. Good. Good. My pleasure. Thank you. Good luck. Have a nice event. Ray, I'll see you.
Okay, next scheduled appointment is our town engineer, awarding of the contracts for the demolition on Central Street. Good evening, sir. And how are you?
Good.
I'm good, thank you.
Great.
It's made up to.
How you doing, Mike?
I haven't given
Something we've been waiting for.
a memo to you.
Thank you. All right.
Personally delivered, with great respect.
Okay. So just a quick update on number 22 and 30 Central Street, which are the buildings that the town have acquired, and the demolition of those 2 buildings. The third building will be coming down once we have the ability to do that. So over the last several months, the buildings have been inspected by an LSP, licensed site professional, that's usually associated with an environmental firm. The person I was using, or used, was Robert Berger from Capital Environmental LLC. What they basically do is test the materials of the building itself to make sure there's no environmental issues. So they did find some things, asbestos that was in some flooring, so that's been abated, removed, and the 2 buildings are ready to go. Sent out RFQs, received 2 quotes, and 1 did not respond, and I'm recommending going with Brighter Horizons, the lowest bidder. Brighter Horizons Environmental Incorporated out of Air, Mass. The quote came in at $49,650. Let's see, and the demolition's actually gonna start in mid-July. I thought it was gonna start in June, but they gave me a date. I let them know that I was coming here to recommend the award in their company, and I said, I pushed them a little bit further to get a date from them, and they came back mid-July, but I think it'll work out. And then following that, once we see how the site looks, they are gonna fill in the areas where the buildings get demolished. They're gonna fill that in with structural fill, that's part of this quote. And then we're gonna evaluate it, take a look at it, and figure out what we wanna do from an aesthetic standpoint. Do we wanna just loam and seed it? Do we wanna put the minimum amount of money into it? Or do we wanna do something differently? And that, I think we'll get a better understanding, and plus it'll be in July, so growing, loaming and seeding doesn't usually work in the middle of
They
July.
have to be sod.
anyways. Yeah, so, I think once we get a handle of what it'll look like, I think then we can make our evaluation with loam and seeding or whatever we choose to do. I think we just want to kinda go easy until we take down that bigger building and not spend too much money in that one little confined area, because they'll be back there demolishing the larger building. But that's something we'll figure out.
Mr. Chairman? Can I just say, but Mike, either way, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it'll probably be more aesthetically pleasing and a heck of a lot safer when they're down, even if it's just,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Well, that one building's,
Yep.
it's just falling in on itself now anyways, though.
Yeah.
So even that, I think, is gonna be.
It's a safety
heck of an
hazard.
improvement.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt we need to move forward with it.
Barricaded. Yeah, I agree with Mike, and I'm glad Mike's focused on what it'll look like after, because that's important. And, I think this board should help give some direction. It's very possible that it'll look that way, however way we leave it at the end of this process for 3 years.
Right.
Let's just say that for the sake of benefit. I think we could be better neighbors for those 3-year process to get some mulch, flowers, a chair, or, something. And you can remove some of those things, and you're not losing a lot if you lose some mulch, 3 years from now when the heavy equipment comes back. But I think it ought to look right.
Right. I would just, what I was referring to more like hardscape, go in with sidewalks and hard,
Oh, no.
spend, thousands of dollars.
No. Yeah, I think it could be minimal and
Yep.
aesthetically
And
pleasing.
still look, that's correct.
And so my only caution is, and I know you know it, but so that we don't have to remove material
Yep.
to get in some topsoil so something can grow. Maybe they just go lighter with their construction backfill. That way, now we start driving costs, right? If we just think about that at the time they're backfilling,
Yep.
they not come all the way up.
Yep.
We can do something a little bit better. Those businesses and neighbors are entitled to look at something and not look at an eyesore. It's been this way for a very long time. I think we can do better, should do better for that 3-year period.
Absolutely.
And with that, I don't know if there's more comment or.
No, I agree with that, and I think just to echo what Mike said, I think it's, once we actually see that land will open and loomed, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
well, I think we can certainly have those conversations, and we should.
Yeah, and I don't think planting of trees is something we're gonna be able to get into.
Right.
But I think even the possibility of laying some brick or doing something for a seating bench or something is fine, because
Yeah.
it's, we're talking
We
minimal.
just don't want to take them down and leave it vacant.
Yeah,
Look like the Gibbs station.
exactly.
Yeah, we don't want
And I wanna
Which
bring
we've
that
been
up.
With
critical.
the nice structural fill.
Yeah, with a nice structural fill.
Yeah, we don't want that, so.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that's consistent with the town engineer's recommendation, that we award the bid to Brighter Horizons Environmental, Inc. of 201 West Main Street, Air, Mass. And they were compliant with the bid request and were the lowest bidder, and that's what Mike is also representing. So I'm happy to make that motion.
And I'll gladly second it.
I would vote in favor of that as well. Thank you very much,
Well, I
Mike.
can't come fast enough for me.
I was hoping for June, but let's.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Let's not let it slip.
Nope, I'll try not to.
I know you're managing other people and contractors, but appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
With that, I'm going to bump out of agenda a little bit. I'm going to go to the
Okay,
very
Mike,
top
thank
of
you.
the agenda. We have Senator Fatman and State Representative Murray here to discuss a grant with the IDC. Evening, gentlemen.
Guys, good evening.
Good evening.
My apologies for us being late. We were, I am quadruple booked tonight and was trying to figure out a way to thread a needle, I suppose. But I appreciate you allowing us to come up here a little bit late. What we originally were intending to do is talk about the economic revitalization plan, but thought perhaps giving a broader view of how the budget looked and what we were able to accomplish in said budget in April and this past week right before May 30th when we had Memorial Day. But essentially, the Downtown Economic Revitalization Committee, I know Ron and Josh are here, I'm sorry, and Paul as well. They had invited me to one of their meetings right before the Senate budget and talked about this plan of revitalizing downtown, making it a destination for families, and ensuring that, there's economic activity, shopping, restaurants, you name it, facade lifts, that the town of Milford could be beautified. And it worked out really well because when I was actually a member of the House, I had filed a similar amendment for the town of Webster for a similar amount of money. And it was successful. So we had all the language written and ready to go, and we've seen some of the benefits in the town of Webster of that program as well. So, I know in the Senate, we were successfully able to get $150,000 towards this effort. I've been told, both Brian and I worked to make sure that Milford had several items in there in the budget. I know he's going to talk a little bit about Pheno Field and the opioid program that Amy Leone runs. But The good news is that these things are going to benefit the town of Milford. And I have talked to some of the conferees on the conference committee budget. You always wonder, well, will it get through to the next step? We are very confident, having spoken to them, that they understand the importance for the town of Milford, and that they will get through to the governor's desk. So with that, we have $150,000. I know that's about half of the budget that the revitalization committee needed to carry out their agenda for this first fiscal year. So we're happy to report that that is coming, and I'll turn it over to Representative Murray.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, in terms of the House side for earmarks, I think, as you know, I put in an earmark, $50,000 for Pheno Field. I think we all know what a problem that is. I don't know how the town wants to use that, but it could be used for either soft costs or go towards the eventual project to try to refurbish that important part of the community. And then also the ongoing opioid task force, the regional substance navigation program with Amy Leone and the police department. I was able to secure $50,000 for that. Again, in addition to the $50,000 that we got last year. She's having a very important program tomorrow at Stacy School at 10 o'clock, the Evan Foundation, which is something that I had seen at the State House and talked to Amy about it. As it was, she knew the people and made arrangements, so we're bringing that to the middle school tomorrow. So I think those are very important earmarks for some of the things that are going on in the community. And just another quick point as it relates to a potential downtown improvement. The House passed this past week a bill allowing for community benefit districts. And I mentioned it to Will a little bit at the firefighters memorial on yesterday. And that'll move on to the Senate now. But that's a local choice. It's a local option bill if it goes forward as a statute. And what it would allow is segments of your community to form districts. It could be a residential, or it could be your downtown district. Essentially form a nonprofit corporation, and the members of that community benefit district would be paying an assessment to the nonprofit for whatever extra services or options that they may wish to have. So it would be similar to, I guess, if you think about a condo fee. So for instance, if business owners wanted to form a district and try to increase their snow removal, their landscaping, their tree trimming, whatever benefits that particular district might see as a real need, it gives them an opportunity to do that with the municipality on a segmented basis. So that's potentially another tool that the town could have to work on various districts.
Thank you, thank you. Open it up to members.
No, I'd like to thank our representatives, both the Senate and House, for the work. I want to go backwards a little bit, and thank you for the work that you've done in helping champion some of our causes as it relates to the water company and the legislation required that's so critical to moving the town's agenda, both town meeting, Board of Selectmen, and others. As you know, the water company has a perpetual right, offer to sell on the table, and we've exercised that right and are now going through the DPU. But our representation at the House and Senate level have been instrumental in moving this process along and paving the way for 40-year bond, for the right to be able to take the amount of the any DPU setting to town meeting prior to them having to be forced. It was an odd twist of facts that led us to realize the situation that if left alone, the legislation was left alone, we would have been taking a proposal to where we didn't know the amount to town meeting, and should they vote on it at the time, they would have been in for any amount that the DPU set. We've rectified that. Now it's a value stated that town meeting can appreciate and deliberate on, and, you know, thoughtfully. And it's through a lot of that work that helps us through this process, and I just want to say I appreciate that, and appreciate the hard work that you're doing, trucking into Boston and representing this district, and making sure that not all of the earmarks and all of the dollars that from dollars that Milford residents contribute to the state funds, because the state doesn't make anything, right? That come back to Milford rather than some other community, and appreciate what you're doing. And you've hit all the right topics, and it shows that both of you are in tune with the community needs and the types of things that we're looking to do that are high on our agenda and the town's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the water company bills were something that Senator Fatman and I worked on very quickly, very early, as soon as I actually got in, because there is that sense of urgency that you wanted the machinery in place, so as you go forward with that. So we got it through the House and the Senate, and the governor signed it, so those were put into place, and they were put into place kind of quicker than I thought they would have been. So that worked out very
Good.
well.
Thank you.
One of the things, just to build upon that, if I may, we pride ourselves on very much is trying to be as approachable as possible. And communication is just absolutely key between boards, and you guys have done a great job letting us know what you need, but I'll also say the board behind me has done a great job letting us know what they need as well. Josh Leosha reached out very firsthand and just said, hey, do you think you could come before the committee? So that was appreciated. And just to Brian's point about the water committee, I remember being in Whitensville Christian School at the Milford Hospital Melange ceremony, and Phil Saramacoli coming up to me and kind of putting his hand on my shoulder, turning me around and saying, hey, where's the water bill? What's going on with that?
Another shrinking violet, yeah.
So to Brian's point, there was extra motivation to try to figure out a way to get it done, because, the great thing about this community is people know what's going on, and they expect a lot from their local leaders and their state leaders, and we try to deliver.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to echo Bill's sentiments, and also, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, Ryan. I think both of you are very in tune with your communities and, and what the pulse is. And again, we have the Downtown Revitalization Committee, we have this board, we have town meeting. I mean, we're all singing from the same hymn book, and I don't think that's always the case. But certainly with these projects and everything that you two have been able to bring home, certainly have been. So we appreciate that. So thank you very much.
I think what's important is that, for the general public that are watching, is that by working together, you can get things done. We have a group of volunteers that came before us. We formed a board, the Downtown Revitalization Committee, and they hit the street running. And they have the full support of the Board of Selectmen. They come before us, but more importantly, they have the ear of our state representative and our state senator. And by communication, by everybody working together and with communication, things like this get achieved. They get achieved. It doesn't get put to the side. And I think what's important is that we all communicate all the time. We were all together yesterday at the Firemen's Memorial, and yeah, we were talking about the Firemen's Memorial, which was important, but we also were having, Brian would appreciate this, sidebar conversations about other things that we're involved in. And that's what makes this, Ryan, you're 100% right. That's what makes this a very unique community. And I don't want to talk about any other community, but that's what makes Milford so unique, is the people in this community do care. We do care, we do get involved, and we want to make a difference for the people that are in this community. So I would also like to say thank you to the both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
I think also we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that, we were at a Girl Scout ceremony, and a young lady named Michaela Hopkins received the Gold Award, which is the highest award you can receive. So a shout out to her, and, before her leaders in the town of Milford, and, hopefully our local press could put her name in the paper too, because I'm sure she would appreciate that.
We should invite her to one of
Yeah,
our
we'll
meetings
invite
as
her
well.
in.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was a nice presentation there, and it's a heck of an achievement. And like the senator indicated, and I didn't realize, that was your first,
That was.
well, my first, obviously, but his
Yeah.
first award that he's had. It doesn't happen too often.
Yeah. Well, you see, Eagle Scouts, it's a wonderful thing when when boys achieve that.
Right.
I'd never actually been invited to the Gold Award which is the equivalent for the girls. So it was fantastic, and really happy that she achieved that.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Well, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your support and your help, and town administrator, and of course, Jean is just invaluable in getting us information and making it easier, and stuff that comes through us, we try to funnel down so that you can get that as well, and just keep our numbers on tap, we're here.
Hopefully this makes it through conference committee and the governor signs it. We know that,
That's-
I know everybody's gonna be
Right.
looking to figure out how to spend based on an announcement like this. I don't want to take away from the announcement, but obviously there's a couple more hurdles.
Absolutely, absolutely.
cautiously
It's still a
optimistic.
process,
We're
but
ready
it's,
for 'em.
it's,
Yeah, we're ready.
We're ready for them.
it's one that we're gonna be involved in.
And to Ron and Paul and Josh, thank you
Yeah.
very much for your commitment to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right,
We know you've got to run, so we won't.
nice to see you.
Take care.
See you soon.
See you, thanks.
You taking Air Force One?
No, I
Good to see you.
the speed limit.
Okay, so that's done. Next agenda item is Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'd like to do is update the board on our ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. Our consultant has completed the on-site assessments for all town buildings. He's finishing the assessment for the schools and parks and recreation areas. I believe he was working on those this weekend. We do have a draft report, which I will be sharing with the board in the near future on all town buildings. We will then have a final report completed that will in fact prepare the final self-evaluation and transition plan. As the board knows, this will specify structural and non-structural methods to barrier removal of physical obstacles that limit accessibility. They will include, and I've seen the draft, will include cost estimates for each building. This plan will present it again to the Selectmen, and we also intend to present to the Commission on Disability. We have received, and I'll be sharing that with the board, a letter from the Lieutenant Governor, Karen Polito, congratulating the town for selecting and working diligently towards the completion of this ADA best practice plan. As the board knows, this is one of the best practices selected by the town of Milford. I just want to, a slight deviation in the Selectmen meeting schedule for the upcoming 2 months. The next meeting will not be June 18th, it'll be June 25th. The following meetings will be in July, will be July 16th and July 30th, just to accommodate the July 4th week and the like. So hopefully, if we obviously need special meetings, we'll deal with that. And I do want to update again, as we've been continuing to do so, on the Milford Crossing entrance exit at Route 109. I'm sure the board knows the do not enter signs were installed at the site about a week and a half ago. Town engineer Mike Dean has followed up with Joseph Frawley at Mass DOT. He has also received the traffic impact analysis that was performed for the redevelopment of Milford Crossing. He sent that report to Mr. Frawley, along with plans of the sequencing for this intersection that the town of Milford, presently has on record. They have spoken, and Mr. Frawley will be reviewing this information to determine if Mass DOT can assist the town for the proper sequencing of the lights, to include an advanced green light to allow for left-hand turn safely onto Beaver Street. So we've also brought Highway Surveyor Scott Christofouli into the loop, and we are working diligently to try to resolve that issue at Milford Crossing. And I'll be following up with additional information for the board in the near future. And that's all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Good update, so, no.
Yeah, nor do I. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Nice job, thank you very much. Next business is old business, and I have to admit, I was driving to work today, listening to WMRC, and I heard one of the things that we were going to be discussing this evening was the evaluation of the town administrator, and I said, oh, boy. So I'm going to ask to put that off to the next meeting.
Sure.
I have not had the time to put together Rick's evaluation, so if it's okay with my fellow members on the board, I'd like to put that off to the next meeting. Thank you. Next is the acceptance of gifts. Now, Rick, you handed me, this is one that came in late,
Yeah, okay.
so it's not on my original list here.
It's not on your original list. The next one on the agenda was the July 4th gifts. Are we doing that one, or?
Yeah, that's, I have here, right.
If that was on the agenda. If you remember, last meeting, the board agreed to let the Selectman's office accept those gifts.
Right.
And what I'm doing now is bringing those gifts forward to you to affirm the acceptance of those gifts.
Right.
Just it's.
What I'm doing right now is July 4th.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have, can we motion them all together, or you want to?
You certainly, I think, could if you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we
It's
have
2
a
pages.
Unanimous $100 cash donation. We have a very generous gift from Milford TV of $100. Another generous gift from Bright Insurance Company for $100. and Josh, and please forgive me, believe it to be Yana Zickerman, a $50 donation. Can I have a motion?
On second page also, the next page,
Oh,
are
okay.
additional
Oh.
gifts, yeah.
Oh, that's with a number, that's where I got confused,
Yes,
okay.
yeah, we totaled them up.
So then we have another gift from Golden and Hosman of $50. Milford Federal Bank, very generous, $100. Milford Nissan, very generous, $100. Five Olsons, which is actually technically Five Guys, very generous, $50. And the Tradesman, very, very generous, over the top. Thank you so much, $500.
Yeah, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to bring them all in. For the 4th of July parade, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the donations by the businesses and individuals that you listed, and to include in that the Ronald and Linda Jinks $50 donation to the Milford Fire Department. I know it's out of order, but I think it's all at the same time, so.
Okay.
And that's under G3, that was recently given to us.
And I'll second that.
And I would vote in favor as well on that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And the next is Tom still here on Goodrich Court?
No, but I think the board can, I think this is one that Selectman Kincaid asked for, and the chief did
Yes.
go out, and
Yep.
he concurs with, I think, what the request was. However you want to do it.
Yes. In response to your email and request of Selectman Will Kincaid, I went to Goodrich Court to make observations on the on-street parking. Goodrich Court is a short and narrow dead-end street that intersects with North Bow Street near Milford Town Hall. There are 8 residents on this street and 9 driveways, as one residence is a duplex. Presently, parking is allowed on both sides of the street. It is my understanding that the residents have indicated that they believe that the roadway is too narrow to allow parking on both sides of the street, and that they have difficulty entering and exiting their driveways. Based upon my observations, I agree. I am also very concerned that the fire department or community ambulance might be hindered when responding to an emergency because the travel lane is reduced significantly with vehicles parked on both sides of the street. Likewise, I would imagine that snow plowing by the highway department is difficult at best. Given that the curb cuts for 6 of the 9 driveways are on the northerly side of the public safety concerns, I would recommend that the Board of Selectmen authorize a no parking tow zone on the southerly curb side of the street from North Bow Street to the end of Goodrich Court at 16 Goodrich Court. These signs could be placed on the 4 existing telephone poles that are there now. If you have any questions, please contact me, Thomas J. O'Loughlin, Chief of Police.
That's a good and timely response, Will.
Yeah, it certainly is.
I think the chief acknowledged the safety concern that you had and you had raised, and that neighbors had raised. So, you know, the only thing I think we ought to do is this represents a change for a long-standing neighborhood. And while the issue was raised from the neighborhood, it would be great, since we're talking about 9 homes, right? If we could notify via letter as well. In addition, that the change is coming, and I'm sure it'll take Scott a couple of weeks to get it done. And
Yes.
you know, it was a safety concern. We all want the fire department and ambulances to be able to travel our roads to get to us, and this is another case. Thank you, Will, for bringing it up. So I'd make a motion to add the signs and follow the chief's recommendation regarding the number of signs and where they should be placed.
I'll second
Send a
that.
letter to the,
And I would just add the letter. It's not heavy lifting, so.
I would vote in favor of that as well.
okay,
Thank you, Rick.
thank you.
I almost went without making a motion. I heard Jeannie there. I heard her.
All right, under new business, we have appointments and reappointments.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could we also put this off to the next meeting? I know it gets to be close now that we moved the meeting to the to the 25th, but I actually am going to request that we get all interested parties that are currently in the talent bank. That way we can compare. Granted, most people continue to serve and we reappoint, but I think people who at least put applications in, we should at least do our due diligence and take a look at them and make a sound decision.
I would like to do that as well, and my reasoning for doing that is that I'd like to, like the articles at town meeting, I'd like to have the opportunity to assign certain committees or commission assignments to certain members of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, we should talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just cautious that I want to be in a school committee type situation where we have liaisons to everything and set up greater expectations for folks not to be able to attend other additional night meetings where we have so many conflicts and so many other meetings. So just, and some of these boards and committees meet during the day.
No, what I
Oh, I
meant.
thought you were doing liaison assignment.
No, what I meant was, you
Oh,
know
okay.
how the chairman of the Board of Selectmen assigns the articles at town meeting? Like you did so many, I did so many, Will
Yeah.
did so many? I was saying the
Oh,
same.
okay.
Do you know
That's
what I
fine.
mean?
Yeah,
So,
that's fine.
Coming into the meeting, you'll know you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, I got.
Yeah, because
these.
basically this is who's reading.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
no problem. I thought it was for assignment.
No.
Okay, yeah, and this is not time sensitive. There's nothing that happens magically bewitching hour.
We would want to do it on the 25th only because the new
Yes.
appointments would start, but certainly that's still ample time to notify people and
Thank you for having it early.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the other new business is Shangri-La Crossing, accepting of the deed, they're giving some land to the town.
Mr. Chairman, this was part of the development, and it's a formality. Mike Dean put together a letter. Part of the approval was to deed two open space parcels to the town, to the Conservation Commission. It preserves about 29.4 acres of woodland. Deed has already been prepared, ready to go, obviously not recorded. By statute, the Concom first must accept, but as a board, the Board of Selectmen are also required to accept in order to then proceed to recording of the deed. So, and Concom did vote to accept last, I want to say Thursday night, I believe, or Wednesday, I'm not sure, last week.
And this land is under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission?
It'll be deeded to the town, and it just preserves 29.4 acres of woodland.
All right, so I think what might be worthwhile is
I can check on that.
Also
I understand what you're
codifying
saying. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
who has responsibility.
Yeah, because it would be deeded as conservation land, right?
Correct, to be
Right,
open
now that-
space, correct, yes.
And you can check with council. to
I
see if there's
definitely would
any
check
town
with
meeting.
Charles. Charles has been involved on this. Oh, no, on that I did check with Charles, I'm sorry. We do not need,
Okay.
that I'm aware of, no.
No, I'm just saying to assign Conservation Commission.
Oh, okay, I can check on that, yes.
We just want somebody who's, has responsibility for it.
Yep.
So with that, I'd like to make a recommendation and a motion to accept the, what was, I don't know whether to call it a gift or I'll call it a deed. Let me just do that. The deed from Shangri-La Crossing as part of their definitive residential subdivision, and the two open parcels for a total of 29.4 acres.
Second that.
I would vote in favor as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next agenda item is correspondence. Does any member have any correspondence? I do,
Not tonight.
unfortunately. So, I don't know if I have to accept this, though, as being chairman.
Deny it, I don't know if it'll change the end result.
The way you could, I would vote for it
She
also.
can certainly tell us where to put it.
Not sure there's a way. I thought about it.
Dear
file
Mr.
it.
Walsh, I have decided to retire after being employed by the town of Milford for over 30 years. My last workday will be August 31st, 2018, with a retirement date on or before September 15th, 2018. I would like to thank the board, all the employees at Town Hall, especially Town Administrator Villani and Liz Fernandez for their support. Very truly yours, Jean M. Dettori. Not happy. Not happy. But wish you the best in your retirement, and thank you for your 30 years of loyal service to the town of Milford. Thank you. You'll be greatly, greatly missed. And I've only worked with you for about a year and a half, but you saved my hide many, many times.
Been doing that for years, for a lot of board members and a lot of town administrators.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I just asked Jean before the meeting. I thought she had served with three town administrators. It was actually 4. Wow. So she knows this building inside and out and all the quirks of the individuals that have worked here and served on this board and other boards, and has done her job. You're not leaving yet, so I don't want to say it, and I don't want to make this a sad event, because retirement should be a happy event. It should be the next phase with opportunity for you to, explore other things in your life and goals and ambitions other than work here, and for which you've earned and you're entitled to. So I want to think of it as a positive thing. Hard shoes to fill, and we'll be talking to you as this gets closer to the event.
Mr. Chairman, Jean, I do want to say something. I know you and I don't know each other really well. I'm certainly closer to other members of your family, and that what gave me a lot of comfort when I started here. Whether it was all my years at the Housing Authority or with the school committee, you come into a place, and it's very hard for people to, and it's something I have to struggle with. It's very hard for me to just to blindly trust people. Coming here, that wasn't a worry to me, because people that I think very highly of spoke to me about you. And they said, regardless of anything, confidentiality, politeness, professionalism, she'll always be that person. And I just want people to know, because for the few people that may not know you, that is exactly what you've exemplified, and it's really meant a lot to me. I've told your son that, I've told your daughter-in-law that, I think very highly of them and the rest of your family, but I literally walked in here knowing that if nothing else, you were the constant. A lot of other people have earned my trust, but you had it walking in the door, and that's not something that I do very well with, so I very much appreciate that.
And that's earned.
Gene, I have to be honest with you. There's an old saying, it's the little things in life that matter. And I'm pretty observant, and I've watched since the day I was lucky enough to get elected. When I enter into town hall, and you know that I'm coming into town hall to sign the warrants, as I come through the side door, I watch you get up, go into the conference room, and turn the light on. Now, I know I'm more than could go in and turn on my own light, but it's just Gene being Gene. And you always go in and turn on the light. And the next thing is, I always ask for copies of what I'm gonna sign, the cover page. And you always make sure that I have those. I always see the treats on the table. Now, thank God I don't work here, but it's the little things. It's not about coming to work every single day and doing a job. It's about coming to work every single day and caring. And in your letter here, you thank all the people at Town Hall. That shows exactly who you are. You thank everybody that you were fortunate enough to work with and help on a daily basis. And so, as my colleagues have both said, Selectman Buckley made a great point. There's an old saying, it's hard to fill shoes some days. Yours are gonna be a hard set of shoes to fill. And we know you're not going anywhere. You're not going to California, Arizona, Florida. You're gonna be around. So if Rick needs you, you can pick up the phone, and I know Rick's gonna need you. We're gonna need you. So, again, thank you for your 30 years of service. And we got a couple of more months to go, so we're gonna be okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
just have a quick opportunity, you've pretty much said what Jean is all about, loyal, trustworthy. When I got here 5+ years ago, inexperienced, she set me on the right path. I could just, after a while, just look at the look, and I'd know I gotta go down a different path.
She has a look.
She has a look, yes. You don't see it, I've seen it. But she made every day a joy to come in to work with, and that's what I look for. As far as loyalty and confidentiality, I mean, I made that speech the first day I got here, and it was fulfilled to the utmost. I don't think she tells her husband anything. So, on at least what goes on down here. So I want to thank her. She has been a joy to work with, a pleasure to work with, and I will miss her. If there's any way you cannot accept, please find a way. But I wish her the best in retirement. I know she's gonna have a great time traveling with her husband, and she's gonna, basically enjoy those grandchildren. So I know she'll have a great time. As much as it pains me, I must shift to, we do need to fulfill the position. She will be here till August 31st. I have just a couple of ideas, and I'm not asking for feedback tonight at all. But one would be that I would like to potentially see some overlap, and I know we can do it within the budget for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, specifically on the licensing, if depending on who we fill in that position, that would be one. And also, I think she's very instrumental in doing the accounts payable, paying the bills, input and what have you. So I'm hoping the board would take that into consideration, number one. And number two, I think I have to point out, obviously, as you know, she's been sitting here all these years with you guys. She takes the minutes, so we're going to need a minutes recorder. So I just throw that out to the board. So it's two positions we would fill, one being the stipend position. But mainly, I do think we need some overlap, and I'm hoping the board would be, and I'll present numbers to you when we get to that point. But I'm hoping the board would at least consider that. I don't think it'd be more than 2 to 4 weeks tops, if that. So I'm not looking for.
I think that's
now.
vital.
So I
Yes,
think that's
absolutely.
important in this
Smart. That's just
position. And I think it would be beneficial I know it'd be beneficial for me, and I think it would be for the board and for all of us, so. But then, that's all I'd like to say on that. I will put something together for the board to review, but I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Rick raises some great points, and, the more we spend on this, the more we realize what an important role it is that Jean's fulfilled and done so well. So just a couple of points. Number one, it's hard to disagree, and I agree that some overlap. This is what I try to target at work where I am, and it's good to see Rick's thinking along those lines. If you can get new employee, former employee, or outgoing employee to overlap for a couple of weeks, it's just a lot, and I know new employees appreciate that. The second thing I'd like the board to consider and try as a pilot, and I'd like to talk with Rick about it more formally, but, maybe there's an opportunity. Rick's been here 5 years, as he said. Maybe there's an opportunity to pilot the stipended position and have Rick backfill that, so that we don't have to bring somebody new into this meeting and take up their evenings. Just something I want to throw out there to consider. And if Rick comes back to us and say, hey, the workload's getting too much, we'll have tried it as a pilot, we'll respect Rick's wishes and go back and fill it differently if the board's so inclined.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And considering it's a stipended position and obviously a full-time one, like whether there's two bodies or if one person's willing to
Right,
do it.
if they're doing the
it's
work.
It's a kind of irrelevant.
And incrementally, it's more work, but incrementally, it's not full body, full-time equivalency. So it may be something to try, and we'll see how it works. And if Rick's so inclined, just mean a side letter.
Yeah. Maybe later on, another position, we could try the same thing. If it works with this,
Okay.
we can, make it a model at town meeting, at town hall. So, I do have one other correspondence, and it's from the citizens of Milford. Chairman Walsh, Selectman Buckley, and Selectman Kincaid. The Milford Medal of Liberty Committee and the citizens from Milford thank you and everyone in Town Hall for supporting our efforts to honor Milford's fallen heroes at our recent Medal of Liberty ceremony. Your presence at the ceremony and the citations to the family were sincerely appreciated. In addition, we would like to thank the Veterans Agent John Pilla for supporting our research of qualified medal families, Town Administrator Rick Villani for assisting us with hosting the event in Upper Town Hall, and Senior Custodian Carlos Benjamin and his staff for their tireless work in helping us set up and take down chairs and tables in Upper Town Hall. Carlos and his crew went above and beyond in helping us ensure everything was set up to meet our needs for the ceremony. We have been deeply humbled by the kind words shared with us by the Medal of Liberty families. Mrs. Frances Marcone, the niece of Private Francis A. Idarola, who was killed in France during World War II, wrote the following to us. My 97-year-old mother was there, and although she couldn't hear very well, she was moved to tears. Your committee didn't miss a single detail. The chorus, the band, the Girl Scouts, the high school students, and the speakers were perfect. I have described the event to others not in attendance as the town receiving a big hug. What an honor for our fallen soldiers. What a gift you have given to their families. Please know that we share these words of thanks with you, the town hall staff, and all other individual groups and businesses that help make the presentation of these medals of this grand ceremony a reality. Thank you. With deep appreciation, Vincent J. Cifasari, Jerry Edmonds, Joanne D. Maria Morgan, and Peter Scandoni. Thank you. It was quite an event.
It was.
It was. Thank you very much. Okay, we do have an executive session tonight to discuss the dispatchers' collective bargaining. That will require a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. And we will not be returning to regular session. Can I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
And I would vote in favor as well. Thank you and good night.